My name is Janet Flores, and I moved to Little Rock in 2001 when we purchased our home, Rancho Las Flores. I actually moved to the Antelope Valley when I was 13 years old. I went to school in Palmdale and I left. And when we decided we wanted to purchase a home with property, we ended up looking in Little Rock and we found our current home. We wanted to raise our children in an area where it was okay for them to play in the mud and be barefoot and climb trees and not worry about someone snatching them from the front yard. We also wanted to have animals. My husband is an avid horseman, and he wanted to have a place where he can have his horses and raise chickens so that the kids can feed them. To have goats and peacocks and all kinds of other fowl. When I first moved here, I was a medical assistant and I used to work in Palmdale. I had very long hours and I used to work on the weekends, and I never got a chance to see my family. So I decided to take some time off and stay at home. And a friend of mine told me that I would be useful in the school district. So I did apply for the Keppel Union School District as a bilingual instructional aide. And I worked in the classroom with students for about a year. And I saw the need for someone in the office, also a bilingual person in the office. And so I applied for that position, and I did that for about 9 years at Alpine School. So I was the morning clerk at Alpine Elementary School for 9 years. Later on, a position as a community liaison came up, and I was like, perfect, this is for me, because I love to work with families and I want to make a difference in my community with the people who live here. So I applied, I got the job, and 2 years later, here I am. I'm working as the community liaison, and my job is to bring parents into the school and have engagement with their schools that they're at and with their students. My job is to bring workshops to these parents and to empower them in knowing that the role that they play in their child's education is very important, because they are their children's first teacher, and I want them to continue to be their child's teacher. And that's what I do for the Keppel Union School District. I'm part of the Little Rock Town Council. I actually joined the Town Council a little bit over a year ago, and I've learned so much. I had no idea the involvement that the county had in a place like this. I always assumed that when we had a town that wasn't incorporated, we ran ourselves. I had no idea that the county had so much involvement in the decisions that we make out here. Pretty much we don't have a voice. All we can really do is ask for things and hope that someday we get what we get from the county. And that's another one of my goals, is to see Little Rock become or be what it used to be back in its heyday, have farmers markets, have, horses all over the place, be able to raise your animals and grow your own food and not have any issues with the county. I would really love to see that again. Or the state, exactly. I remember that there used to be, for growers out here, they used to have stands, or they used to have signs pointing you to their orchards. You pick cherries, or you pick pears, or you pick apples, and we really don't see that anymore. One of the disappointing things that happened in Little Rock not too far back was that when Caltrans came in and expanded the highway, they took out our Welcome to Little Rock sign that was out like on 70th and Pearblossom Highway as you were coming in from Palmdale. One of the landmarks that we did have for Little Rock was the Charlie Brown sign over at 4 Points. In that area, that was a sign that showed you how to get home. That was a sign that meant you're home. And the city of Palmdale decided that it wasn't pretty anymore, or they didn't want it there anymore, and they tore it down. And that was a big chunk of Little Rock that disappeared. As a family, we were discussing the fact that my son was getting ready to become an Eagle Scout, and we were looking for a sustainable project that could benefit our community. And he came up with the concept of building a sign for Little Rock. He wanted people who lived in Little Rock He wanted to show them that they were home, and he wanted to use resources that were readily available to us from Little Rock. So what he actually ended up doing is pulling rock from the creek that's right there on the bridge, under the bridge. We had a group of people come out. A lot of people from Little Rock actually came out, helped us look for rocks, brought them up. And he and some other people decided, let's do this. And they built this Little Rock sign in less than a month. And we had many people from Little Rock volunteer their time. We had Van Dam Farms donate a lot of the hardware that was used for the sign. A council member donated his time to help him build the sign. We just had a lot of people from Little Rock come together and help him build that for the community. I do have a memory that happened here in Little Rock, but it was a personal memory that happened. It was my husband was out riding one day, and he gave me a call, and he says, "I fell off my horse. Make sure you go outside and look for my mare." And as I'm hanging up the phone with him, I look outside, and sure enough, there's his mare running across the street. And I go out there. This is hilarious. I go out there in leggings, cowboy boots, and a tank top, trying to chase down this crazy Arabian mare who's running up and down the street. And I have neighbors on both sides of the street coming out trying to grab her also. It was crazy. It was hilarious, and it was scary at the same time. But in the end, my neighbors did what they needed to do to help me catch that mare, because my husband was actually hurt that day. He was like 2 streets down, and some other guy who lives in Little Rock, about 2 streets away, he ended up bringing him over in his car and bringing him home. So that was awesome. We have great neighbors. We have great people who live here, and I love where I live. I had a buffalo burger for the first time at Charlie Brown's. I don't think I've ever had that anywhere else. They sell the weirdest things there at that store, but cool at the same time. They have frog legs. They have all these different sodas from all over the world, and it's not something you really find anywhere else. It's only here in Little Rock. One thing that I do remember about Little Rock, especially Charlie Brown's, that, oh my gosh, I can never forget, because it happened. So we used to live in Palmdale when we were kids, and my mom used to take us to Little Rock Creek on the weekends, and the stop was always at Charlie Brown's, because you can get a pickle for 5 nickels. That was the greatest trip that we would do on the highway. We have to stop at Charlie Brown's, Mom, because we got to get that pickle for the 5 nickels. The antique stores were amazing. I miss those so much. That was something which was rare, but if we didn't have anything to do, we would drive up and down the highway and stop at every antique store, which were at least 4 or 5 of them. And the Orbits, I miss the Orbit. I miss that place so much, because you can find all kinds of goodies there. We're a little bit slower paced than everywhere else. Just driving to work sometimes, people who don't live here have a tendency to get upset because you're not going the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit that's posted. Or if I'm driving in front of the school and it says 25 miles an hour, and I get people who will honk at me because I'm going 25 miles an hour, and they don't understand these are our children. These are our children whose lives are in danger if we speed through the highway. So I think the highway needs to be looked at a little bit better. And yes, our businesses are there, but at the same time, we have a lot of kids who walk the streets there, who cross the streets to go to school, and their safety should be our number one concern. I'd like to see the highway as a business loop, maybe, where it's not so congested with just pass through traffic. It's more like, if you're going to do business on the highway, this is where you go. If not, you're going to have to divert it to a different direction. Go a different way. At the same time, with this high-speed railway that's coming into town, I don't want it to become a Radiator Springs type of place, where everything's forgotten. And because we do need those mom and pop stores. One thing that I do remember, before Van Dam came in, when it used to be the Ace Hardware store, all we had to do is ask, can you get me this? Because you don't have it. And it would be there within days. just something different, because they would go out of their way to do that for us, where you don't get that from the big corporate stores. You can't go into an AutoZone and say, I need this and that, and they'll, do it for you. Or I need a certain faucet that looks a certain way. They won't do that for you. Mom and pop stores go out of their way to do that for you, though. I want Little Rock to be able to make its own decisions based on what the people's needs and wants are, not on what the politicians in LA County want. I think it's based on what we, the people of Little Rock, need and want. One thing that I do want to see in Little Rock, either come back or do it in the future, I want to be able to have a town square where people gather, where we do festivals, where we do ceremonies, where we as Little Rockians, I guess, where we can gather and do our own things. Farmers markets, parades, that kind of stuff that you see in small towns. You don't see that anymore. Everything's all about fast-paced rush, advanced technology. Sometimes we have to stop and really take a look at why we're speeding, why we're going so fast, and we end up missing out on a lot of things when we do that. We're not seeing what is happening with our children. We're not seeing them grow up because we're trying to do fast all the time. So I would love to slow the town down, bring it back to what it used to be, where we can really get to know our neighbors, and not just the ones who are immediately next door to you, but everyone who lives in Little Rock. Yeah, we don't even have a Boy Scout troop out here anymore, because nobody wants to participate. No one wants to volunteer their time, and it's kind of sad, but, my own husband tells me sometimes, I wish I can have you back, but it's just, there isn't enough people volunteering their time to do things around town, and somebody has to do something. So this is why I do it, because I love where I live. I love the people who are here, and I want to make a difference. I want to see a change here in town. I don't know if you're aware, we were up in the highway just cleaning on Sunday, because everybody just throws their trash and doesn't even consider this is where you live. I really hope that they don't subdivide our properties any more than they already are. I want to make sure that they stay large, acre properties at the at the least, and just leave us alone. Again, just leave us alone. Let us do what we want to do with our land. And I don't want to build apartments out here. I don't want to build 2 or 3 houses on a lot, because I know that there's that idea. We have large homeless numbers out here, so let's just build more houses on your lot, and I really don't want that. I want to keep us as rural as possible. There's already a lot of homes that are encroaching around us. I just don't want any more. I think we're good with what we have. Population is pretty high. Some people may not think so, not that Little Rock is, but yes, Little Rock population is pretty high, and I'd like to keep it low as possible. What keeps me here is, the fact that this is where work is, this is where home is, this is where I raised my family. Maybe once my kids are gone, I would consider moving somewhere else, but right now, this is where I want to be. I love my home. I love the people, again, that live around me. I love the people I work with, so why give up a good thing? Everybody who's part of this Positively Little Rock has made an impact on my life in one way or the other. Dr. Nadich is awesome. Her daughter and our daughter grew up together from the very beginning, and she's always been our vet, and we're actually very close friends now. It's just not, it's a good relationship that we have. It's not just a business relationship, or just because our daughters are friends. We're actually friends with her, and we enjoy spending time with her. My kids made lifelong friends here. Well, this is where they grew up, so they make lifelong friends. And where else can a 13-year-old girl drive around in a Kubota with her friends in the back feeding the horses? Nadich has 20 horses up there at her ranch, so the girls would go up there, and it was their job on the weekends was to go feed the horses, and then staying up until 12 o'clock at night because they wanted to watch the stars. And all they had to do was step outside, lay on the porch, and watch the stars. They got to see the Milky Way. They got to see Orion's belt. They got to see, all those beautiful constellations up in the sky. Our son loves this town so much. You know, he went to school here in elementary school, in junior high. He went away for high school. He's going to a local college. His plan is to stay in Little Rock, live in Little Rock. He wants to buy his own home as soon as he graduates college, and he wants to work locally. He wants to stay as an engineer in one of the many plants that we have out here. So yeah, that's how much he loves this area. I always thought that he was going to be the first one to say, "See you later, Mom. I hate the desert." But nope, he actually loves the desert and he wants to stay here. Do the same thing that we did. Grow our own food and raise our animals and live his life out here in the desert. We've had awesome parties out here. We've had parties in Palmdale, and at 10 o'clock, the cops get called. So out here, you know, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, but you have to be, you know, a little conscientious and be nice to your neighbors. But yeah, you can throw some awesome parties out here. We're all connected, you know, it's that 5 degree of separation that you say, but we're all connected. We have great neighbors. We have great people who live here, and I love where I live.